Washington is preparing for an unusually direct diplomatic encounter between Israel and Lebanon after a separate round of regional diplomacy in Islamabad ended without a breakthrough and the White House shifted focus back to the Levant. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is set to host Israeli and Lebanese representatives in Washington, launching what American officials describe as rare face-to-face negotiations between two countries that have long treated one another as enemies rather than counterparts. The U.S. Ambassador to Lebanon, Michel Issa, is expected to be present as part of the American team. On the Israeli side, the ambassador to the United States, Yechiel Leiter, is slated to attend. Lebanon's delegation is expected to be led by its ambassador in Washington, Nada Hamadeh. The talks are unfolding against the backdrop of active fighting along Israel's northern front and deep political divisions inside Lebanon over whether any direct channel with Israel is legitimate or dangerous. U.S. officials have pitched the meetings as a chance to explore both immediate de-escalation and longer-term arrangements centered on security and the future of Hezbollah's armed presence. Inside Israel, the push for a new security reality in the north has been presented as non-negotiable. After months of escalating cross-border fire and an intensifying campaign in southern Lebanon, Israeli leaders have argued that residents of northern Israel cannot return home or feel safe without a buffer that physically pushes hostile forces away from the frontier. In remarks delivered amid continuing operations, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu emphasized that Israel's military campaign has not paused while diplomacy begins. He said, asterisks, we push the enemy away from the border, and we're not talking about just 5 points. We're talking now about a solid, much deeper security zone, which also prevents the danger of invasion and also pushes away the anti-tank threat. Netanyahu described the battle as focused not only on rocket fire or a handful of contested locations, but on dismantling infrastructure he says has been embedded in border communities for years. He said, asterisk, well, they are also dealing with the terror villages that were right next to our border, and they're every terror post, and there are many of them. They are simply being flattened, and you really need to see this. He framed the offensive as part of a wider campaign that also includes Gaza and insisted Israel's aim is to restore normal life for civilians displaced by months of war. He said, we still have a threat from Hamas, and that is also being taken care of. He continued by tying the battlefield to a domestic promise that the North will not be treated as an afterthought. He said, asterisk, we must bring back security to the North, and we will make sure that the residents of the North who are entitled to the very same level of security that all citizens of Israel enjoy will indeed receive. Asterisks. And he made clear that in his view, Israel is not close to declaring mission accomplished. He said, we will not rest until their security is fully restored. On the Lebanese side, the very idea of direct talks with Israel has ignited a fierce backlash, especially from Hezbollah, which has repeatedly argued that negotiations under fire are not diplomacy, but coercion. In a hardline address, a senior Hezbollah figure urged Lebanon's government to withdraw from the Washington process, portraying any engagement as capitulation and warning that the movement does not consider itself bound by outcomes produced through official channels. He said, we absolutely refuse to engage in any form of negotiation with what we consider to be the usurping Israeli entity. He argued that direct talks would require a nationwide Lebanese consensus that, in his telling, does not exist, making the process illegitimate from the start. He said, asterisk, these negotiations, they truly necessitate the existence of a comprehensive Lebanese agreement and a unified national consensus. He called the negotiations a surrender dressed up as statecraft. He said this negotiations is nothing but submission, surrender, and a complete stripping of Lebanon's power. Then came a call for what he described as a last window to halt the meeting. He said, we call, and the opportunity is still available for a heroic, historic stand by canceling this negotiating session. His message was blunt. In his framing, there are only two paths, submission or confrontation. He said this aggression truly has no solution other than complete surrender or a full, unwavering confrontation. And he concluded with an uncompromising pledge of endurance. He said, we shall remain firmly planted here in the field, even if it means fighting until our very, very last breath. Beyond the rhetoric, Hezbollah's position points to a central dilemma for Lebanon's state institutions. Even if Annan's government chooses a diplomatic track, it remains unclear how and whether any arrangement could be implemented without the cooperation of the country's most powerful armed faction. That internal divide has become sharper as the Lebanese government, led by Prime Minister Nawaf Salam, signals it wants the state to hold the exclusive mandate for decisions of war and peace. Salam has publicly emphasized that negotiations, if they happen, should be handled by official institutions, not by non-state actors or external patrons. Hezbollah's leadership, in contrast, has increasingly portrayed the government's moves as criminalizing resistance and as aligning Lebanon with foreign pressure rather than national unity. The speech cited decisions and dates as evidence that the state is, in Hezbollah's view, treating its fighters as lawbreakers rather than defenders. The address also took aim at what Hezbollah described as relentless demands placed on Lebanon by outside powers and by Poli. Tickle forces it accuses of exploiting the war to reshape Lebanon's internal balance. In that telling, the priority should be confronting Israel first, then negotiating Lebanon's future political direction later. Meanwhile, Israel's diplomatic messaging has been equally explicit about what it wants from this moment. Israeli officials have signaled that any talks must address Hezbollah's weapons and presence, especially in the south, and that Israel's goal is not simply quiet on the border, but a structural change in the security landscape. An Israeli spokesperson framed the war as being directed at Hezbollah rather than the Lebanese population. While describing the group as holding the country hostage, he said, our actions are not against Lebanon and its citizens, but against a murderous terrorist organization that has taken the Lebanese people as hostages. He argued that the military campaign has significantly weakened Hezbollah and that this has opened the door to a diplomatic track initiated by Lebanon's government. He said, now that Hezbollah has been so severely degraded, the government in Lebanon reached out for us for talks. Key described the talks as a U.S.-mediated opening with aims that go beyond a temporary pause in fighting. He said, this dialogue between Israel and Lebanon has started, which is aimed at disarming the Hezbollah terrorist organization, removing them from Lebanon, and establishing peaceful relations between our two countries. In one of the clearest red lines stated publicly, he rejected the idea of negotiating a ceasefire with an armed group that continues firing into Israel. He said, we will not discuss a ceasefire with a force that, he added, continues attacks against Israeli civilians. Then he laid out a two-part objective: political normalization and demilitarization in the border area. He said, we're looking to make sure that there is some type of agreement between our two countries that would have to do with peace relations between Israel and Lebanon. The first and most important thing right now is to ensure that it's disarmed. They are demilitarized, and so is southern Lebanon as well. That sets the stage for what could be an extraordinarily difficult negotiation. Lebanon's government may be willing to discuss state authority and security arrangements, especially under U.S. pressure and amid devastating damage from Israeli strikes. But Hezbollah's message suggests it intends to resist politically and militarily any process that it believes is designed to dismantle it. Even the framing of the meeting exposes the gap. Israel is presenting the talks as a pathway to disarmament and peace and as an extension of battlefield gains. Hezbollah is presenting them as coerced surrender. Lebanon's state is caught between those poles, under pressure to protect civilians and rebuild a collapsing economy. But facing the reality that power in Lebanon is not monopolized by the government. For Washington, the diplomatic push is also part of a broader attempt to show it can shape multiple crisis zones at once. While much global attention has been focused on U.S.-China trade diplomacy, the administration has also been quietly working other fronts, trying to stabilize the aftermath of regional war dynamics while preventing another spiral on Israel's northern border. The stakes are unusually high: a fragile state under strain, an armed movement promising defiance, an Israeli government insisting it will not stop until the north is secure, and an American-led negotiation that is rare in format and uncertain in outcome. If the Washington sessions manage to produce even a narrow set of understandings on border mechanisms, phased withdrawals, verification, or demilitarized zones, it could become a first step toward a broader arrangement. But if they collapse, the risk is that both sides return to the battlefield with fewer restraints and deeper grievances, and Lebanon's internal political fault lines grow even more dangerous. For now, diplomacy is beginning while the war continues, two tracks moving at once, each trying to determine what the region looks like when the shooting finally stops, and who gets to decide what security and sovereignty mean on the ground.